Hi, everybody. It's Jen and Delle with Creative Finance Playbook, and we are streaming today from a hotel room up here in Tampa Bay because we just had day 2 of the Family Mastermind, and we just got done with the keynote speaker for this mastermind, which was Mr. John Maxwell. And so good. I've got pages of notes, and Joe, he was a little more techie. He took his notes on his phone here, used a little AI just to capture it because dropped major gold.
Yeah, so we got to just hang out with John Maxwell, and many of you already know who he is, but if you don't, that's okay. He's only the greatest of all time when it comes to leadership and leadership development. He has the #1 coaching program in the world on this topic.
Mhm.
So, he's got 56,000 coaches in his program teaching this all around the world in 172 countries. Sold 38 million books in his lifetime, in over 50 years in the industry, working with some of the biggest companies all around the globe.
Yeah, and he's written 90 books. So if you just type his name into Amazon, John Maxwell, pick the one that speaks to you. Again, he's all about leadership, and there were some just major gold nuggets I want to share in the next 20 minutes here with you all, that if you are just feeling like you're at that pivotal point in your business, your real estate company, maybe you're growing a team, and leadership is not easy. To be able to manage people, to lead them, to inspire them, to help you grow and scale is so, so important. And so I know that I'm going to be downloading probably like 85 more books in the next however long.
And he's got like a bunch more coming,
Yeah,
which is really exciting.
And didn't you love how he said, like, and when somebody asked him, well, what's your best book that you've ever written? What does he say? Do you remember?
I don't remember that part.
My next one. So everything he does is the best in that moment. And so again, it's like that 1% better every single day, that growth mindset, the fact that like we're not where we're going to be. And I think that with the true leaders in our community, they know that, right? Like every day they wake up, like, what else can I learn? How can I become better? How do I grow? And so we're going to share with you some insider hacks here that he shared with us. And I wanted to, I'm labeling this one Cycle of Success, because I felt like that was such a beautiful way he shared how you can really become better every day. Like, well, what does that even mean? Right. So I wanted to break it down, the process of Cycle of Success. He said that there are 5 steps to this, and you just are going to repeat them all along your journey. It's never going to be like a straight line. And so the first step of the Cycle of Success was testing.
And this is what he talks about, and he really dives into. And I love that we're going to talk about this first, right? Because so many times, it's in the failure of where you're learning your most, your biggest takeaways. It's not always just winning all of the time. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to test. And when you're testing out new things, there's going to be sometimes you're going to walk away scratching your head. There's going to be sometimes you had some big wows and some big wins, mm-hmm. and that's wonderful. So if you're new in real estate investing, you got to test it, right? You're going to have to, take steps. And I think that was my favorite part, was this whole cycle of success, because we always think, success is a straight line and I'll get there. And it's not. It's a very wavy, curvy one.
It's like this loop, a cycle. It's a literal loop that like forever and ever, until you take your last breath, that you can continually become better every single day.
And I think of it like a spring, right? Because the circle, mm-hmm. as you're coming around, is still going up and up and up, yep. and up. And that was the kind of illustration that he was using, something very similar to that. So, first step, you got to test out what you want to do.
Yeah. So again, asking the new questions and coming up with some, like, well, what if I try this? And what if we did it this way? And so testing the waters in your real estate business, like with your leads, like let's give prime examples here. Have you tried different methods of generating leads? And yeah. So if you haven't, then don't quit on it. Just keep trying something. And then that will take you to number 2. So step one is testing. Step 2,
failure.
Yeah. Which to me, I used to hate the word failure. Like I was so afraid to fail. I was perfectionist at heart. Like if I can't do it perfect, I don't want to do it. And guys, that is not the right attitude to have.
And, and the one thing I thought was neat, he's like, if you do something 10 times, you're going to fail 7 of mm-hmm. the 10, but you're going to win 3 of them.
Yeah.
Right?
So do it 100 times. So you fail 70, but now you've got 30 wins.
And then do it 1,000 and you've got 700 losses, but you've got 300 wins. So what is he talking about? Well, the more you do it, the more you're going to fail and win.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's encouraging us to fail a lot, not just like once or twice.
Yeah. I think he was like, yeah, I don't think there's many people who failed more than him. So he's like, celebrate those failures because it's about learning from your failures.
Ooh.
And this was the key that I really...
Step number 3, learn.
Right. Learn from your failures. So if you have a fail and you run away from it and you ignore it like it never happened, then he's like, you ever seen people who just are constantly failing all the time? It's because they had a failure and they didn't learn from it. So number 3, learning from your wins, but also learning from your failures, because some of those failures are some of the biggest lessons to learn. And I look back in our journey and our real estate investing, and some of the big mistakes that we've made were some of the biggest ahas, right? The biggest, we should have done that,
right?
Or we should do this better, or we need to incorporate this strategy, right? And knowing that you're gonna fail and that you're going to learn from these failures is a comfortable place to be once you understand that.
Evaluating too. Like, I love that he touched on that, because like you can have all this experience, but if you don't actually have some reflection and evaluate, like, well, how did that go? And like trying the new thing and just like working it, tweaking it a little bit and just trying to get it to be a little bit better, that's where the magic really does happen, I think. And
the reason, because step number 4 of all of this is to
improve, right? So again, we're constantly trying to improve. Also, and this applies to, just everyday life too, but we're here talking about real estate. So just what little things can actually turn into big things to improve every step along the way. And you can't improve what you don't know.
What?
Boom. Okay. So there, take that away and write that down, stick it on your mirror. You can't improve what you don't know. So don't be afraid to ask the questions, to take the risks, to maybe fail along the way, and so that you can get better. And that's how we learn.
And he's got 7 questions that we're going to drop in here that he asks everybody when he's first meeting them, of just the most fascinating story. And we're going to share those at the end.
Yep. And then step 5 is re-entering the game again. So Joe kind of gave that great analogy of a spring. But again, I also kind of think of it as like a life cycle, right? Like the arrows just continually loop. So you've tested, you've failed, you've learned, now you're improving, and you go back at it again. But every step along the way, this is the visual. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see us. If not, sorry guys, come over to YouTube to see us. But literally it's like I'll start down here. You're testing, you fail, you learn, you improve. Test, fail, learn, improve. And you just keep going up and up and up, right? It's kind of like it's like a stair step. So really think about that, when the next time that you're faced with a challenge, turn the mindset around and don't beat yourself up. And, especially with leadership, you're growing your teams, you're going at this entrepreneurship. It's not always easy, but don't make it hard, right? Celebrate the wins. Know that it's okay if you messed up a little bit. Re-enter the game. And what did you learn?
Yeah. And then the next big thing that we hear this all the time, but it's completely true, is the exposure to the right people and environments, right? So we're here to mastermind, right? There's 300 amazing people downstairs right now. Well, maybe they're all going to get dinner, but there was 300 people, packed room, huge conference room. Yep. So being around the right people, these are leaders in so many different walks of life and businesses and authors. I mean, big names, absolutely amazing. And then the environments, right? So being a mastermind, you're in the right people, you're in the right crowd, you're in the right environment. And I think that was really key to success too. So if you're listening and you're just getting started in maybe real estate investing or a different whatever, find who's doing what you want to do. Get around those people, right? Learn from them.
I love it when he talked about the who luck. He's like, it's all about who you know, but you're not getting lucky, stumbling into these people. Like, we purposely placed ourselves in a room full of these people so that we can have those intentional conversations and see how could we work together? How can we collaborate? How do we grow? How do we help one another? And so just really think about that too. It's not it must be nice. Oh, they're just lucky. People who are successful do it on purpose. They put themselves in the right rooms with the right people.
Well, And I want to say one thing I want to
Yeah.
add to that too, which I think is really, really important, is that the reason why we pay so much money to be in these masterminds and to be around these people is for the speed and the convenience of those connections and relationships, and being the proximity,
Yeah.
right? So proximity, the speed and the convenience of these connections, people that John Maxwell, you want to meet him your whole life. And then boom, we're in this mastermind. There he is, right?
Yeah.
And so many other, like,
He
really
was funny too, like
hilarious.
such a great, had control of the audience of like, keeping us engaged, cracking jokes, but like always bringing it right back. And he just had that little iPad there. And it kind of reminded me of you because you're always with your iPad. So it was such a well thought out presentation. So well done, Matt Andrews, who put this whole mastermind together.
And you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
It was, everybody was glued to what he was talking about. So I think that was really, really neat too. The next thing too was intentional growth through mentoring and learning.
Mm-hmm.
And so intentional growth, not just maybe it will happen, maybe we got lucky it happened. Like, no, making it happen was the difference. So being very intentional about your growth. That could be a book that you're reading, could be a part of a group that you're part of, could be Zoom calls that you're getting on, whatever that is. Being intentional about your growth is key. And I was lucky enough that at a very young age, I grew up poor, everybody, and we've heard that before, but I grew up poor. I didn't get around the right people at a young age, but then when the first time I did, they're feeding my brain with Think and Grow Rich. Mm-hmm. The Master Keys to Riches by Napoleon Hill, and so many authors and so many books that we were reading and audiobooks I was listening to. That was a huge step for me. So I'm highly recommending, if you're listening to this and you're just getting started, there's so many wonderful books on this topic. Mm-hmm. And it's easier now than ever. You could just get them, most of them, for free right on YouTube. Go to Audible, spend a few bucks if you can't find it.
And even if you don't have a team, don't think that like leadership is not for you, because in order to lead anybody else, you have to be able to lead yourself first. And so first and foremost, read these books and take away and improve yourself of how could I become that, true person that's leading myself forward, and therefore your family or whomever else that you're really trying to improve upon. And so I think that's important too, is, don't think that, oh, if I don't have an employee, I don't have a team, like start with yourself.
True. You can manage yourself, you can manage your team, right? And it's really important. And the next thing that was really interesting, and like I really thought about it, was investing your time versus spending your time. Mm-hmm. So investing your time, and we could get into, what's spending your time. Spending your time is scrolling aimlessly on social media. It could be a series of different things. It could be
spending it with people that are just kind of energy suckers, or maybe they just have a lot more time. So like, I know with us, our busy schedules, homeschooling, running multiple businesses, and not having a lot of time, a cup of coffee with someone is a lot on my end, versus if I could invest that time with someone else. So I'm not saying like never hang out with your friends that aren't in real estate, but you have to really look at the time you do have, because we hear this all the time, is, well, I'm too busy. But if you truly want something better for you and your family, more money, more time freedom, whatever that might be for you, like you have to really take a look at your calendar and audit.
Yeah. So spending time with people that are going to help you grow is key to your success. You got to put that like little asterisk next to that.
Did you hear how and I've heard this before because I've listened to him. He checks his calendar at the end of the year, and he'll go through and he'll say, okay, I spent a couple hours with this person, and what did I get out of that? Or how did I help them? And did I get so much that I need to like spend more time with that person? Or, is that where, okay, it was okay. But like, what?
Yeah. At the end of the year, he said he spends the last week of the year reflecting on the past year, the year that he's just about to finish up, and just same thing. Some of these meetings or some of these things, did it help him grow, or was it something that he should continue into the next year? Or is it maybe we spent too much time on that thing and we need to move on?
Yep. He said, big people make you bigger and small people make you smaller. So really think about that when you find your time kind of being vanished and realizing like, where did it all go?
Well, and I think what was really cool, his story, he talks about how he was John Wooden, the best, they could say, coach of all time.
Is it Steve Chandler that talked about him in 100 Ways to Motivate Yourself?
Yep.
I was like, I feel like I knew this story.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. He was the winning is to coach in college basketball with 10 championships.
Okay.
So he wanted to go meet John Wooden to kind of pick his brain. And the one really neat story was, so he meets with John for an hour and a half for breakfast. He traveled all the way across the country, flew to Los Angeles to meet John Wooden, takes him to breakfast, and he showed up with questions, things he wanted to talk about. And not 2 questions, not 5 questions, 5 pages of questions. I think he said he had 128 questions.
Yeah, something like that. 120 something questions that he had already written out page by page by page. And so his whole thing was get out of the people pile, because how many times you hear like, oh, I just want to pick your brain. And there's a line of people trying to talk to somebody. And so he said he showed up with all of these questions. It bought him more time. It showed how sincerely serious he was to really want to be mentored by this person. And so we can definitely share those 7 questions because I thought they were a game changer. So if you're listening, definitely take some notes. We'll probably even put them in the show notes below for you because I thought this was crazy. Number 1.
We're going to go over the 7 questions now.
I do, yeah.
Giddy up. You ready, guys? So if you're listening, get a pen. You're definitely going to not miss this. So when John Maxwell meets with somebody, he says, I have 7 questions I ask them every single time. And the one powerful thing is he talks about is leaders ask great questions. And so the questions he asks when he meets somebody, what's the most important lesson that you've learned in your life? Big question. I got to say, when he asks that, usually when somebody asks a question or, they're in a big group, I'm like, okay, well, I could answer that question right away. This one, I'm like, whoa. That's a deep question. I don't know how long it would take me to think of that answer.
Yeah, the most important lesson you've learned in your life, because it's really diving into like the wisdom that you then carried from that lesson. And I have a few that popped in my head, but yeah, it's crazy. It's a really deep question. So I think it's even an important exercise to answer these yourselves too.
Yeah.
But definitely if you're going to meet anyone, he said, don't change these questions either.
These
are the 7 questions to ask.
He said, you could come up with your own, but mine are better. I was like, there we go. So question number 1. Question number 2, how has failure shaped your life? And I was like, wow. Well, once again, I've learned from a lot of failure. I've learned from a lot of mistakes. Some of my favorite lessons is learning from other people's failures that taught me these lessons. Don't do this and that. And that's probably part of like mentorship and coaching and reading and, educating yourself is sometimes the best lessons to learn are from other people's mistakes. Right. But how has failure shaped your life?
Yeah. And he said that failure brings humility. So we're all human. We've all failed. And so when you can kind of like break that surface open and like, okay, we're human here. Like, tell me, like, what is it that you learned from there? And then also that success was a lousy teacher. I love that because like how many times were like you closed your deal and it was great, but I'm thinking about, man, like we learned this and then this happened and now we got to change this process. And so success didn't really teach me anything, like put money in the bank, but the lessons that may have happened along the way, those change everything.
Major key right there. Yeah. Question 3.
I love this one.
What are you passionate about right now? And I got to say that answer came the easiest to me. And it was really, it's helping other people be successful. That's really what it was. For me, I was like, oh, okay, I know that one.
Because passion creates energy. And I just know like when we get into our small group coaching or you're around other people like, and you're helping them and you're changing lives.
Like, I get jacked.
It's crazy. It's like you drink 10 Red Bull.
Yeah, I get so pumped when we do like one of our like group coaching, like support calls. We're on there for 2-3 hours. Sometimes it's the middle of the night. I am so jacked. I have the hardest time even going to bed at night.
Yep.
So that's definitely, so what are you passionate about right now? Question number 3. Question 4. What are you reading right now that I should read?
And why should I read it?
Maybe they're reading something I shouldn't read, right? But many times, what are you reading right now that I should read?
I love that question so much because I'm always curious what people are reading, but then also like, why should I read it? Because sometimes people are at different stages. So you got to make sure it's going to be applicable.
Okay. Power question. Asterisk next to number 5. Who do you know that I should know? And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
what a great, imagine if you just get to meet, amazing people, and these were some of the questions you asked them. So this opens up so many other doors, just that question. Who do you know that I should know? Love that one. Question number 6. What have you experienced that I should experience? And I was like, my gosh. And I'm thinking to myself once again, I'm like, I have so many ideas that popped in my head, but that would take me a few minutes to really come up with, like, okay, well, here's some things, especially him.
Yeah.
And then question number 7.
Probably the most important and most valuable.
You could do this one.
How can I serve you? So ending the questions on this note is literally like the biggest thank you to this person, right? So again, we are coming from this mastermind where it is who can give more. And so, if you have an ask from someone, you just ask them all these questions, make sure you're giving something. And you always want to try to give back to that person. Like there's always something someone else can do to help each other.
And he said that question singly alone has opened more doors and relationships and business opportunities and partnerships and so many other things, because he said, I would ask somebody the question, and like, you could help me, we could do this together and we could do that together. And I was like, wow. So we're meeting with some friends tonight.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, I'm going to have my 7 questions, right? So
oh my gosh, we'd be there all night if everybody tried to answer these.
I don't have 128. I only have 7, but
yeah.
Yes, I know. He came with 128 when he met John Wooden. But these are the 7 big ones.
Yeah. So write those down next time you are going to schedule a lunch date, a breakfast date with somebody that you are looking up to. So instead of just saying, hey, can I pick your brain for coffee? Like, offer to take someone out to breakfast or lunch. And that's such a great way to get in the connection. But then also don't forget question 7, like how can you serve that person that just opened up for you? Because the hill is harder and higher for the leader. And I thought that was so important too, because again, leadership, it's one thing to see people who drive the fancy cars and have the corner office and the nameplate or whatever the success status symbol might be, but it's the leading that there's challenging times most days when you're running a team, when you are doing deals, when you have, even if you're just flipping a house and you don't have like a bunch of employees, like a team working with you, like in an office, you've got contractors, you've got attorneys, like you've people that you're all a part of. So you got to make sure that you're always staying connected and helping to lead them.
So filled with so many wins, filled with so many wows. This is why we were compelled to come on and share this, why it's still fresher in my mind. God, this just happened.
I know we could be downstairs mingling and we're going to, but I was so like, if we don't do it now, it's not gonna happen. So I hope that you found some value in this. So if you did, make sure you drop a comment below. Let us know your biggest takeaway. And if you've read a John Maxwell book, let us know what you're reading and why we should read it.
There you go.
Because we're always looking to grow. He said How to Receive a Return on Failure was one of his books that he recommended today. But again, there are 90. So
pick one.
We've got a lot to work through. But yeah.
So if you have a favorite book, maybe it's a John Maxwell book, or there's other, I'd love to hear about it. So drop that in the comments below. I would love to find out what you're reading right now and why should we read it?
Yeah.
Right. So, well, thank you guys so much for tuning in to our podcast. And I'm super excited. I can't wait to see what's so much more to have during this mastermind. And we're going to be sharing it with you guys too. So look forward to more coming.
Yep. Don't forget, leaders are readers. So until next time, give us a follow here on YouTube, subscribe, and comment below what you're currently reading.
And don't forget to follow us on all the podcast channels, guys, live. And if you give us a review, we'd love to see it.
Yeah. Apple and Spotify, Creative Finance Playbook. And we'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.
Bye.